fact, because of all the annotations, books are the main reason I read so much today. It's very dramatic, but honestly, it's really rare nowadays to relate to a main character how I do with Katniss. So I'm always gonna be grateful for these books and Susan Collins. So when Sunrise on the Reaping was announced, I think around last year, I didn't want to read it, if that makes sense, because it kind of reinforces the idea that we're slowly turning into the capital who takes pleasure in violence in media. Then there's the other side of me that's always gonna read something from Susan Collins. Of course, I'm gonna read this. These books are always the books I always recommend to someone who really wants to get into reading, just because it's very fast-paced and really easy to get into. Reading this as a preteen and going back into this world as an adult in Ballad was such a, like, I really did not think I would ever go back to this world just because how big it was in the original trilogy. But I'm so grateful that she is still writing about this world, exploring more about Haymitch's point of view. Sorry, I can talk all day with these books, but I think I'm just really nervous to read about this one in particular because we know it's gonna be probably, if not one of the saddest origin story, because it's about Haymitch and we know how it ends. Not to mention, this Hunger Games is the 50th Hunger Games, which is a quarter quell, so there's gonna be more people than usual. I already read the first chapter because I could not help myself, and the fact that there's already foreshadowing that Haymitch isn't much of a drinker, also the dedication and quotes in the beginning about propaganda and government. Yeah, I do find out that Haymitch is dating a cubby girl, Lenore Dove Gray, like Lucy Gray, who I miss very dearly. Oh my god, I want to make another video just talking about the Ballad because I could talk about that book all day. It's honestly really up there for my favorite books and her writing. But anyways, yeah, Haymitch is dating Lenore Dove, who is part of the covey, which makes me even more anxious because I'm thinking, is that the reason why there's no covey during Katniss's time? Because Snow killed every covey because of Haymitch, and I don't know. Anyways, I'm really excited but also very scared because anything can happen. My predictions are, besides the obvious that his girlfriend and his family is gonna die, unfortunately, I want to see more Tigress or even District 13 people, just because I have a feeling we're gonna go into the rebellion, how the rebellion kind of came about or laid out the foundation of the rebellion, at least building it to how we know it in Katniss's time. Maybe meet some District 13 people, hopefully, because honestly I would love to learn more about District 13 and District 12 and how Plutarch got into it. I think I'm procrastinating it. Y'all, what the First of all, I just finished chapter 7, I believe. I have a lot of mixed emotions. Loulla having braids and Haymitch calling her sweetheart like he does with Katniss. I was already like so emotional from that, and the fact that Loulla just dies during the chariot sequence, like I have no words. First of all, I obviously didn't expect her death so unexpectedly, and like I was in denial for that chapter. I was like, there's no way she just died right there. I'm still processing it, as you can tell. I feel like that whole Loulla arc, I feel like stabbing me would have hurt less, because what the f. Also, the fact that Haymitch wasn't even raped, he was just chosen because he was just helping Leonore with, and the guard was like, okay, I guess we found a replacement, which is so stupid. Like, I'm still like processing that Loulla just died right there. Like, it really feels like I'm in denial And then Haymitch carries her body to Snow, showing Snow pretty much like, look what you did. This is like a tiny child who passed away because Snow's ignorant, malicious, narcissistic, ignorant, arrogant, punches ass. Like, this, I was just really upset and confused and sad. Like, I just had so many emotions during this chapter. I was also like 95% cheering on Haymitch. Like, yeah, you show him, like, as you should rebel against Snow. But then the other 5%, I was like already extremely anxious because this is, I guess, your first act of rebellion towards Snow, because we know Snow can hold a grudge. So even though I was proud of Haymitch, I was also like extremely nervous at that point, because we know it won't be the last time Haymitch provokes him either. We're not even in the double digits yet, and I'm so nervous. This is already making me want to reread everything from the original trilogy and the ballad, just to catch all the layers that Suzanne has kind of weaved into Haymitch's story now. This is one of those stories where we know the ending, but we just don't know how it gets there, and it's not gonna get any easier once it gets there. On a somewhat bright side, I am loving Macely, even though we do know she dies in Haymitch's arms, I believe, from catching fire. I'm really curious how they will do Loulla's death and braids, if they're gonna really make it obvious as to like Katniss's braids in the first movie, and also who they're gonna cast for Macely, just because I feel like I can feel that she's already gonna be a fan favorite, because I'm already loving her spunk. If I was in her situation, I would also be insulting every single capital person, and I love her for that, which is a very different characteristic that we've seen in different games. But yeah, that's where I am so far. Wyatt is interesting. I have a feeling he's probably gonna have some character development. Maybe he'll turn a new leaf during the games. If I remember correctly, I think Booker Boys was not in the first book, so it's a really interesting element that she's adding into the District 12 society. I really like it. I'm excited, but also very nervous. So I don't even know like what to say other than like I'm very disturbed. This world already feels very uncomfortable, but Loulla's or Lulu's story is so, I don't even know what to say. Like, I'm literally so speechless. Other than, of course, the Capitol tortures some random person to keep the narrative alive that Loulla didn't die. Then I don't even know how to like transition out of that arc. But we meet Emperor and his father. Another callback to the original trilogy. We meet Beatty again. I don't know how I feel, obviously. Love that we get to see Beatty again. I understand his role. He's a genius, and him and Haymitch have a plan to outsmart the arena and drown it and pretty much defy the Capitol. But knowing how this ends is making me more and more anxious. The more people we meet, the more alliances and teams that form. It's really sweet but also terrifying, because you know no one can survive this. The callback characters, I'm not very like black and white, as you can tell. I'm both very excited to see them pop up again, but the other part of me is also like, this seems a little bit fan service, but at the same time I'm not complaining. We'll see how I feel about it later on. But also Macely, my girl, I love her. Her character development, I already know when the movie comes out she's gonna be a huge hit. Honestly, I think the best way to explain the feeling when reading this book, it feels like we're mourning the living. We know it won't end well, and that just makes every moment we see with Haymitch and Wyatt and Lulu now really bittersweet. I also did not expect I mean, obviously we're reading from Haymitch's point of view, but I really did not expect Haymitch to be this strategic, if that makes sense. Like, obviously he's smart, but I didn't expect him to play a certain character. I don't know why. Like, reading this, my expectations were totally different with Haymitch in general. In this part of the book, he plays the capital by kind of leaning into the rascal character or caricature. This makes every moment so much harder to get through, and every single like scene or dialogue. She makes like a snarky remark or something. I'm like, girl, I'm already missing you and you're not even dead yet. We also see Haymitch kind of playing into the rascal persona. Interesting seeing how many different strategies going into the arena. It really is a lot of psychology and manipulation, which is kind of insane, and it makes me want to reread the trilogy again because you see how well Peeta and Haymitch is playing the capital. And oh my god, probably one of the most outstanding scenes, just because it's Snow, Plutarch, and Haymitch. Snow projecting about Haymitch's girlfriend was so comical. Like, when he said, I don't remember what he said, it was something to do with like, I can guess what your little dove is doing, or like trying to guess her name. But like, the way he talks to Haymitch is so, I just hated him. The way Snow talks to Haymitch, he's trying to warn him not to get played like he did, even though he literally, Snow, tried to kill Lucy Gray because he's an overthinking narcissistic. And the fact that Haymitch has no clue about Lucy Gray or no context about his hatred to the Covey was just so hilarious. I feel like as a reader in most power, because you have all the context about this conversation. Also dying when Haymitch downed the milk so Snow wouldn't drink it because he was poisoned or whatever. Can't wait to see that on screen and just be laughing about that scene. I think that's the scene like I'm gonna most look forward to. Hopefully they bring it out in the movie. I would think they would. Funnily enough, when the cover was first announced, I really thought it was a harp. Don't ask me why. There was this moment, I'm kind of jumping back and forth, but when we were going into Heaven's Speed Mansion or whatever, there was a moment when Plutarch mentioned a harp in a painting or something. I was like, oh my god, that's it. That's literally the harp. That's the cover of the book. But then my dumb ass was like, wait. I realized it's the flint striker that Haymitch literally has. So, which is a much better symbol because of the songbird, snake, and fire, flint starter. He's the spark of the rebellion. Wait a second. Wait, did I just figure that out? It's a flint striker, and he... Wait. Susan Collins, man. And he ended up mentoring the girl on fire. Oh, we also see Effie. Same thing with Beatty. I'm not completely mad that they're there. I'm not I don't know what their ship name is. Like Haymitch and Effie shipper. Kind of saw it in the movies because of the actors, but other than that, when I was reading the books, I really did not see it or feel it. I guess, I don't know, I feel a little indifferent about that ship. I mean, I see it, but I also don't really see it, if that makes sense. I guess it was sweet to see their first like meeting. Yeah, we're about to enter the games and I'm very nervous. If I remember correctly from the earlier books, I think in Catching Fire, the arena looks like paradise or something, but it's like full of traps. No, Maisie dies in Haymitch's arm, which I am not ready for, and that Haymitch uses the arena to kill the last opponent. I have a feeling the capital's gonna do something. They'll tamper with something, and Empert and Haymitch's / Beatty's plan to drown the arena is still a plan, but I don't think it's gonna end well, which makes me even more nervous because I think that's probably how Empert dies, or I don't know. I'm scared. I'm just scared, really. I do not want to read this because it's probably going to be one of the saddest parts of the books. Yeah, this is me before reading the Hunger Games section of the book. I'm very nervous. I think I'm like kind of procrastinating it, but I just Oh. Oh my god. Hi. What are you got called? Why am I like scared they're gonna attack me, but they're literally birds? Oh my god. It literally sounds like I'm making this up, but later that night, the birds started singing. I wasn't really sure at the time because I thought it was gonna be an owl or something, but it was for sure birds singing the whole night. And it was cute for like 5 minutes, and then I actually couldn't sleep because I'm such a light sleeper. But it literally felt like I was getting punked, because why was there a literal mockingbird family outside of my window? Not even like outside of my roommate's room. No, it's outside of my window. The same day I finished the book. All right, I finished it. There were so many gut punch realizations. Just thinking about what Haymitch goes through in the first day honestly like made me gag a little bit. And when Lulu died, the moment really hit me because it kind of felt like it paralleled to Rue's death in the first Hunger Games. It's kind of wild how a book can be so hard to read emotionally, yet you still can't help but turning the pages. It's like Susan Collins was stabbing me like 48 times and then decided to dance on my grave with Embert's death. I was speechless. Like, I knew the plan was not going to go well, and like I even predicted that he was going to die from the plan as well. And just the dialogue in that whole page and the mutts, the skeleton, I don't know how I can look at a squirrel the same way. I thought I was holding there pretty well until the epilogue. I was not expecting a time jump. I think that was like the best case scenario is if we see a time jump, and the original trilogy is like, what, 10 years ago now? So I really wasn't expecting a time jump. So seeing Katniss and Peeta's name again, that warmed my heart. I don't want to ramble too much because I can talk all day with the original trilogy and what it means to me. Like, reading from Haymitch's point of view and finding out Burdock is Katniss's father. Katniss's father is Haymitch's best friend. This book already made me appreciate Katniss's and Haymitch's relationship dynamic even more because of Loulla's death and reminder Haymitch sees in Katniss. But Burdock being Haymitch's best friend, and he pushed away because of how much people he lost. Like, I just wish I can just read this epilogue and stay in this epilogue forever just because there's so much peace. Then the line about Haymitch meeting Lenore in the meadow one day, but not yet because he still has a family to take care of, which means Peeta and Katniss and Haymitch are like a little family now. I think Susan Collins like might as well set my heart on fire and scatter the ashes. But yeah, alright, I guess I'm gonna go into what I like and didn't like. I loved the character arcs. You really get to connect with the newcomers, especially his district team. I didn't expect myself to get attached to Wyatt. The way he protected and calmed Lulu down was both comforting and anxiety inducing because I knew he would probably die trying to save Lulu. So when Haymitch saw Wyatt's face in the tribute sky in the first day, I really felt that. I was in denial. I was like, there's no way he died in the first day. Maisley, who everything I aspire to be, had this like undeniable snark, and you couldn't help but root for her even though you knew her fate. Same goes for Lulu. I just wanted to hug every single person. They deserved so much better. It puts into perspective how Haymitch, it was such an understatement when he said Katniss was like him but luckier. Just how lucky Katniss was in the original trilogy, which not just with the timing of the rebellion, but with people around her, like Peeta turning their story into a love narrative and Haymitch offering comfort and guidance. It really makes you wonder how many other Mockingjay existed before Katniss and how many that didn't survive. Also, reading this made me realize the 75th Hunger Games was definitely rigged because we also see Wyrus and Mags get tortured because of these games, because of Haymitch, unfortunately. And I feel like they were put into it again as punishment. Same thing with Beetee. He has to go through we find out that wife is pregnant again. He would have to go through all over again with probably because of all of his rebellions, which is again insane. Now, dislikes. I didn't fully understand why Effie needed a cameo. I thought Drusilla and Magno, I don't even know how to, were a perfect contrast to Cinna and Effie in the original trilogy. But when Effie replaced Drusilla, it felt, I don't know, a little unnecessary, and the contrast was kind of gone. I wasn't a huge fan of the fan service in the beginning. I think that I hated it. It obviously, a part of me, it made sense. Obviously, we're gonna see, it's a prequel, we're gonna see people from the original trilogy, but I kind of wish it was handled more subtly, if that makes sense. I know it's a small district and everything, but I remember in the first chapter or first section, it was very much have an Everlark best friend, and then we bump into a Malark who runs a bakery, and it was just like a little on the nose. But at the same time, I'm not gonna complain because I love the Hunger Games series, but I'm not gonna lie, a little part of me was a little bit that's a little forced. But final thoughts overall, I'll rate this 4 out of 5 stars. It's an amazing origin story, and it adds so much depth into Haymitch's story. I think the reason I'm slightly underwhelmed is just that we already know the ending, if that makes sense. The commentary on propaganda hit harder in the other books for me. Like, I think Mockingjay did a really good job with propos and propaganda and stuff like that. That being said, I still love this story and I adore Haymitch. Opinions are subjective, so obviously so are mine. I'm very curious what you guys think of this book. Obviously, I love anything Hunger Games related. I think we're all wondering, will there be another book? In my opinion, I'm very torn. On one hand, I do want more, but in the other hand, we're not supposed to want more. Still, there's a part of me that would be curious to see Suzanne Collins explore more games, even if it's kind of veers into fan service. But again, it's going to be a prequel, so we're going to see those characters. We're going to go into that kind of opinion-based stuff, but it's really not that serious. I'm still happy that we got to see the people we saw and the fan service we got, because it's still an amazing book and origin story nonetheless. The Hunger Games book obviously comes with a risk, as there's already this uncomfortable undertone of glamorizing and romanticizing these young killers. I'm sure you guys see it in fan fiction. It's really starting to echo real life patterns, like the way people once romanticized Ted Bundy, or even fictional characters like what is his name? Or even Killing Eve. If Suzanne Collins does write a new installment, could be really cool to see if she has some commentary on desensitization. I think the other games people were wanting to see other than Haymitch's was Finnick, which again, very torn, but at the same time, I think if she were to write Finnick's games, I think it's probably going to be one of the darkest, just because it does go into. And either way, every story Suzanne Collins puts out makes this world darker, and I'll keep reading whatever she writes. So let me know what you thought of the book. I'd love to hear your take, and I can't wait for the actual movie. So again, thank you for watching. Comment down below any book suggestions for me, and I'll see you guys next time.